Now, inevitably, one of the real problems is that it's very hard to study television entertainment or any television when it's a moving target. When I look at versions of my TV course that I taught 5 years ago, it's a very different course. If I was teaching it 15 years ago or 30 years ago, I'm sure it would be an even more profoundly different course. There are so many new technologies that are adding themselves to television, competing with television, working alongside, television is changing quite radically. And of course, with those new technologies also means a sort of new business arrangement. And so how television works, how it's created, is in some ways changing. And then, of course, what that means is that audiences treat television entertainment differently. Not just as one big mass. Indeed, too often we can make the mistake of thinking of the television audience as a mass. Instead, what we might realize is that with many, many more channels in existence today, and many different technologies and different ways of watching television, what we get is a massive pluralization of television entertainment, so that my television entertainment is probably not the same as your television entertainment, and vice versa. There's a sort of proliferation of versions of television, and so it becomes very sort of hard to grapple hold of this very slippery concept of television entertainment, precisely because for different people it works in different ways. What this means, of course, is that no one book could try and get hold of all the aspects and elements that are important to looking at everyone's television entertainment. Instead, though, what I wanted to do was try and take a thematic approach. Now, taking that thematic approach was important for another reason, which is that I've grown dissatisfied with how a lot of television introductory books sort of divide the world into what we could see the sort of holy trinity of television studies. We have the industry, we have the audience, and we have the text. And certainly this mirrors sort of ongoing battles within the field of television studies, that there are some who see meaning as residing in just one of these three. So that there are people who feel that, studying production is of the utmost importance. The other people think that it all comes down to the audience. And then there's other work that really is involved in studying the text closely. Now, of course, these are sort of three different sources of meaning, but one of the dangers of presenting media studies and television studies in this framework right from the beginning, and in dividing textbooks up into sections that look at these three, is that it can sort of cuff and limit the potential for a multi-perspectival approach, wherein instead of just looking at the audience in and of itself, we might talk about how the audience relates to aspects of production, or we might look at how, for instance, text and production work together. We might take, as I'm arguing for, a more thematic approach instead. And so one of the things I wanted to do with television entertainment was, rather than divide it up into those three, into the Holy Trinity, to structure each chapter thematically. So the first chapter, for instance, is on creativity, innovation, and industry. The second one is on affect, fantasy, and meaning. The third one is on expansion, overflow, and synergy. The fourth one is on reality and representation. The fifth one is on politics and citizenship. And the sixth one is on televisual power. And so using these as sort of thematic ways in, I wanted to sort of try and throw together the Holy Trinity so that we're dealing with various aspects of these sort of thematic approaches, so that when we're talking about how television tries to be creative, we're talking about this both at a textual level and at a sort of production level, while we're also talking about how the audience plays a part and where they get involved in the process.